they always said FICA didn't come or they arrive. They take you for a meeting. FICA is around, you are invited. You don't see FICA. They take you for a meeting, then they said you come back next time. They give you 6 months, then in 6 months, then 6 months. 4 years, 6 months, 6 months, 6 months. So you wonder what is really going on. Is it personally? Is it a policy? Is it because the policy is very good, the law is there, but the implementation of law is not there. So you can find there's no implementation that is proper and holistic. So that is the major problem that we are facing. So as a person, you just go and stay there on a day for renewal of your status. The bank is closed, everything is closed. They give you another 6 months. When you want to ask, you don't have chance to ask. You are outside. You just give a paper over the bureau and you go. You follow instruction. You want to voice something, you are in trouble. So that is the major issue. I want also to say about the people that complain about the food parcel. I think it's because of also the fear of what is happening and unplanned issue that comes. It was a crisis that people also need to understand. It's a crisis that comes without preparation. So there was a displacement of everything. As I said, as an essential worker, it was difficult to say who give food, we don't know. The SASSA, the DSD social development was not giving food. The money was given to the organizations. And the organization within the community was supposed to have a process in plan. But it was not like that. So I talk about the other area that I was working. The mayor, councillor in that area was also having maybe 20 only food parcels that was given to that ward. And they just give those 20. And we were also organization, we have donation that was given. We go to the people that fund those who reunified and reintegration. It was difficult to find where to get the resources to give the communities. So I think it's the displacement of things that comes, crisis in a difficult situation that the government was not planned, people was not planned, and no one knows that things comes. I think on that manner we need also to forgive the whole system and try to find a common ground of what are we going to do now to move forward with the situation that is there. And the other issue I want to pinpoint, very important, that the jobs that we're talking about. It was before COVID, now it's after COVID, which is another crisis. Before COVID, the city council, they do parking marshal, which is a job that anyone can get without a certificate or whatever in the city. I was working before I graduated. The city, they take out all the people that need more money and put anyone who can just work for a tip. It's not the refugees' problem. There's someone there that make that plan, and then we attack each other, which means we are attacking leaves instead of the taproot. So that the problem when it comes, I think we need to go to the offices and find out if the city council is a parking marshal, the car guard, they are collecting revenue for the city, they are foreigners. And then what happened and who is employing them? Then as human rights people, they also need to find out what is that. Because I was so humiliated myself to find out all my friends from South Africa, they said they cannot work for free. Then they go home. Then the foreigners, they're sleeping in the street. They end up saying, I can work for a tip because I don't have anything, even bread. Now they are in the street working for a tip. But then the whole city council is collecting revenues for the car parking using such strategy. It's a thing that human rights have to intervene also on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kundai. There was another hand. Then I will give over to Chris Nissen just to respond to those comments. Yep. Over to you, sir. So do we have to sanitize all the time? Try.
Okay. Yeah, my name is David. I just wanted to pose a question to the Commission and Parliament that now, without, if you don't renew IDs and refugees are not banking, and then like right now I'm with Legal Aid and they're actually at the Reserve Bank there, but I mean the actual circulation of your currency, your money as well. You know, you have refugees who earn minimum wage per week. But as you're walking home, you know, these colored moms here, but as you're walking home, all you see are foreigners with, how can someone hold 20 kgs of chicken, you know, then they buy food, and then they buy, in ShopRite, they because you keep on spending cash that you have in your actual pocket. So why can't we actually have our IDs to bank? Doesn't that then go back to your actual country? Then doesn't that go back to the Reserve Bank that actually prints the money? But at the moment, like if I walk out, I'm running out of money at the moment, because when I walk out, you know, it's hot, so now I buy a hat, and that's my minimum wage for the actual week. If I was banking out, if I had my ID, I would be banking. I would be, you know, I'd have a fixed account. I'll be the same colored mums as well. They would take me seriously if I wanted a place to stay. Do you actually bank? But all foreigners right now, we're stuck. We can't because of these fines. We carry this money in our pocket. That workplace where you work, you're buying stuff in the shop, in the garage. What happens with the type of money that you know, when your money is circulating, what kind of money is circulating through the Reserve Bank?
Thank you for that. And I'd like to echo Chris Nassim's word when you say when you don't have a document, you're not just stuck, but you are nothing. And I feel the pain because you can't have that back. Okay, over to you, Mr.
Thank you, Program Director. The parolees that have been released during December 2019 and also now during the COVID-19, the number of people that have committed these crimes are very, very low, very, very low. However, what we are saying is that the process are not sometimes followed correctly and properly. When a parolee is released on parole, he or she, where they were arrested originally, that station must be informed. And where he or she is going to reside, that station must be informed that this is the parolee that have been released. But we have said, and I've spoken to correctional services about a month ago in the Western Cape to say, the CPFs must also be informed. The community must be informed that this person is coming into your community. This is what he or she has done. This is the sentence that he or she got. She's now out on parole. But we must also be very careful, because you see, we live in a society which is very dysfunctional. So when a person comes from prison, from correctional services, the community never stops reminding that person, you are Scallum, you are this and you are that and you are that. So you do not want to stigmatize the person. So there must be a greater support network for people when they are released on parole. And the parole officers, the probation officers must be more vigilant onto those parolees. So it's two sides, vigilance from the parole officers, and at the same time, how supportive are we to those who are being paroled. And it's indeed, the statistics show that quite a few of them that have been released on parole have committed acts of violence and murder and that again. Again, with regard to pull all the questions together, I know Home Affairs have given us, on many occasions when we met with the refugee community, the steps that are being followed, and why a person at 6 months and why a person at 4 months, because of, I think, the parole review board and the appeals board and all of those kind of things. And we identified it then as problematic. And so maybe, again, these questions, that is for Home Affairs, as to why my neighbor have to sit with 3 months, now after 4 years, now she's got 3 months status, or 6 months status. And also the fact that if you have to go and renew your papers with the original center. So if you've come in via Beitbridge, then you have to go back to Beitbridge to go and renew your papers. You have to go to the refugee center was closed, it's open now. So all of those things, we are busy talking to Home Affairs about how can you fast track. Now Home Affairs also say that, you know, the reason why they give you a 3 or 6 months is because your status is being verified, you are close to finalization of your status, asylum seekers, you're close to finalization of your case, you may hear in 4 or 5 months about your status, that's why they're giving you the 3-6 month status. But those are the kind of things that we need to talk to Home Affairs when we meet with them and so on. And again, maybe more education from their side to explain to people and not just simply throw your paper over and you can't even ask them a question. So maybe those are the kind of things I think we need to talk when we meet with them. The 350, yes, everybody complained. Everybody complained about it, you know. And there are some people, you know, in the township, they make quick jokes about this. The guy says, borrow me 100 rand, I'm waiting for my COVID money to come through. You see, so the 350 has been translated into my COVID money. So people have borrowed on their COVID money and it's not coming. You see, so it does affect, and I hope that it will be able to come through for us and so on. And again, the idea of no ID, no banking. But there are some very clever groups in the country because, you know, it's a kind of a stock fell. Because of you, number of you don't have IDs, they can't have banking. Then one person have got a banking account and they have a constitution, they agree how to do it. So you bank your money in there that you know it is safe, or you can borrow it, or you can send it back home to a relative or something like that, you know. But that does not take away the fact that no ID, no banking. And we need to find out from Home Affairs how can we fast track that. So, but I think also we must, not only about the ID, but some of your papers you can open up. If your status is a proclaimed status that you can have, it's no papers, no ID, no banking. I think that's the case. But we will discuss it in our meeting with Home Affairs and so on. And then I think what we need to do is the Institute can have a feedback after that meeting. Because not everybody will come to that meeting. So there must be feedback of that meeting, which I think Institute, Scalabrini, Streetscape, all of us can have together with Home Affairs and then come back to I think that's it. Yeah. I must apologize, Father and Mantla. I've got a 12 o'clock interview. The 2 people in Senegal have just been released on bail. And there's a lot of issues there. I'm going to Senegal tomorrow to try and mediate and see how we can do it. So my apologies, I have to leave now. Thank you so much, colleagues.
Okay, thank you, Chris, for your time. We really appreciate making up your time. You know we are very busy men, so thank you as you leave. Thank you a lot. Safe journey. And now I will call upon our last respondent speaker, Father Michael Lapsi, who is the founder of the Institute for the Healing of Memories, just to also to respond to some of the sentiments that have been made in this space up until this time, and also to more so to reflect on how, you know, how healing is looking like in this context, in all what has been said. And I'm sure he has been taking some notes. And so, welcome, Father Michael Lapsi.
Good afternoon, everyone. They're already asleep. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you just stand up for a moment? And can you just see if you can touch the roof? Thank you very much. Thank you. People are South Africans. People are Africans. People are women. People are men. People are gay. People are straight. People are asylum seekers. People are refugees. But firstly, people are people are people. Before we add any other label to them. And that reflects what we believe as an institute for healing of memories. Our slogan is, all people have a story to tell. And every story needs a listener. So a key part of what we do as an institute is to create spaces where people can tell their stories. And so that's what we've been doing today. We've been listening to Babalwa, listening to Kundai, listening to Ephraim, who's about to become a famous singer in Africa. I think we need another clap for that song, don't you think? And then each of you who spoke. When Babalwa first began to speak, I thought to myself, can I stay here this whole morning? Because I'm not sure that I can hear all this pain. And I think it was particularly painful to hear how, in the context of COVID-19, there were plans for food that did not include refugees. And I must say I have a sense of shame as a South African when I hear that. Because people are people are people. And we forgot that people are people are people, and human beings need food. I, like Chris, was in awe of Kundai's story, and I'll be in the front row when the movie is made. Because it is an extraordinary story. And I think it tells us, you see, in a way, Mandla kept talking about the plight of refugees, which suggests that refugees as victims. But damn it, Kundai's never been a victim. She's been a fighter for herself, for her people. And how amazing. So we've heard stories, yes, of people who've had horrible things done to them, but strength and commitment and courage and determination. Extraordinary. So that for me, Kundai's story is a story of inspiration for me, and I hope it also is for you. Because it tells us what people can do if they are determined. I think it was good the way Chris began, when he talked about the history of Cape Town, going back so many centuries, beginning with the people who were slaves, and saying people coming from other places is not new to the Cape. It goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. And the stones have within them the stories of what happened. What has also been beautiful about today is that we as an institute are not the solvers of problems. We create the space where people can tell each other their stories and get strength and comfort from each other. As an institute, since we were founded, we have worked with people who are refugees and asylum seekers. So we always had workshops where refugees and asylum seekers would tell about their stories, which always had 3 chapters. The story from home, the home country. What was happening in South Sudan, what was happening in Zimbabwe and Malawi that led them to become a refugee. The first part of the story. Then there was the decision to leave. And there was the journey to South Africa. And of course, within South Africa, there was a journey to Cape Town, the last stop, because the next stop is the South Pole. But then there's the journey of what happened in South Africa. And whenever I hear people who are asylum seekers and refugees telling that last part of the story, I always feel a mixture, as a South African, of pride and shame. Because that story of asylum seekers and refugees in Cape Town also has 2 parts to it. It is the story of South Africans who behaved as people first. Kindness, generosity, and compassion. And then there's the story of South Africans who acted out of fear, who exploited, who ill-treated, who behaved in a horrible way. And I think when we're feeling good about ourselves, we tell the stories of the kindness. When we're feeling bad, we tell the horrible stories. And the thing is, it's not that one is true and the other is a lie. They're both true. They're both true. And I'm sure each person here who's an asylum seeker or refugee can tell the beautiful stories. And they can tell the horrible stories. But there was a mistake that we made. And we realized it as an institute in the period of 2008, 2009. And the mistake we made was we had healing workshops for asylum seekers and refugees. And we had separate workshops for South Africans. And then the xenophobic attacks began. And as Chris mentioned as well, even in the xenophobic attacks, there were some communities who said, not in our name. There were some communities where a few people took the goods of foreign nationals, and the community went and collected those goods and took them back. But that was not on national news, because the national news is more concerned about the bad news than about the good news. But what we realized, the mistake we'd made, was to have these healing workshops separately for South Africans and for brothers and sisters from other countries. And from then on, we said, never again, never again. We must always have South Africans together and sisters and brothers from other African countries in the same workshop. Because what happens when you're in the same workshop? You listen to each other's pain. You begin to realize that all of us have our fears. All of us have our hopes. When I listen to refugees and asylum seekers talk, I think, what a messed up lot of people they are. And then I listen to South Africans and I think, what a messed up group of people they are. Because it's the human story. We all have our beauty and we all have our ugliness. But what we have in common is our pain and our common humanity. And the work of healing of memories, I've been involved in doing this work all over the world. And one of the things that people say in our workshops all over the world is that when they've listened to a sister or brother from another faraway place, they say, I discovered we are all human. We're all people with the same hopes and the same needs. Now, I think we're very fortunate, and it was good the way we did it today, that we listened to your stories. We heard people from the talk, from the floor, and then Chris responded. He didn't speak in a void, he listened. Now some of you will know that his own background was as a freedom fighter, and also as a politician, and also as a priest, but now as the Human Rights Commissioner. But you could hear in the way he speaks that he's committed. He's willing to fight for the rights of asylum seekers and refugees. He could have chosen just to be a bureaucrat. He could have come and just told us the policy, but he's there in the front line. And as he mentioned, tomorrow he's going to Senekal, which is a front line of the relationship in our communities between farm workers and farm owners. So even though he's not here, will you do something for me? Let's give a big clap for Chris Nissen. You see, because I have no hands, I can't clap, so I have to ask you to clap for me. So thank you for your willingness. And I want to refer as well to something that Chris said. Although I was not legally a refugee, in practice I was a refugee for many, many years, for 16 years, because I've been expelled from South Africa, and I went to live in Lesotho, and then in Zimbabwe. So part of my heart is in Zimbabwe. And of course it was in Zimbabwe that I was bombed. It was in Zimbabwe that I received a letter bomb from the apartheid state, and therefore lost both my hands. But I wanted to say that it was in the countries of Africa that we were accepted and treated as people. Well, so many of us as South Africans have a debt of gratitude to the peoples of Africa, many of whom were poorer than we were. Many of them struggled to live lives, and yet they acted and shared with kindness and generosity. And for that, many of us will be grateful. And so that's part of the reason some of us have a commitment to work with people who are refugees, to work with people who are asylum seekers. Coming to an end of what I want to say, I think it's great that there will be practical outcomes, and I think Chris has pointed to that, of specific meetings with Home Affairs. But because the people who work at Home Affairs are people first, some of them have an attitude problem. It's not about, as my sister said, it's not about the policy. South Africa has beautiful policies. It's about the implementation, and the implementation depends on the attitude, on the willingness to say, we will solve these problems, and we will do it in a just, kind, and generous way. Yeah. But I'm also glad that today my sister is there speaking about, as a South African, and I understand why and where she comes from. But I hope she too has learned from hearing the stories today. Because as we hear the stories, we experience our common humanity, and we can find each other. And sometimes we blame each other instead of saying it is our government that is failing us. But we ourselves have to hold our own government to account. But also, we have to have not just a South African perspective, but an African and a global perspective. We should be clear that at this moment in history, there are more refugees in the world than there ever has been in human history. Well, so the issue of people or refugees is an issue which is confronting the whole human family. And also Chris pointed out, he took his hat off for a moment as a human rights defender, and put on his hat as a priest and said, and by the way, Jesus was a refugee. By the way. And where was Jesus a refugee? On the continent of Africa. And how did Jesus reach the age of 33 before he was crucified? The answer is because when he was a baby, there were people in Africa who didn't say, you're a foreigner, go away. There were people in Africa who fed the infant Christ, who gave his parents comfort, a home, shelter, and protection. And that should be a challenge to all of us who like to call ourselves Christian as well, to say the one whom we follow was a refugee on the continent of Africa. And of course the story of Jesus is not only in Christianity, it's also in the Quran, the person of Jesus as well. So whatever faith it is we follow, it's relevant to think about that. So I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank our sisters and brothers of Scalabrini. What's the correct name? What do you call my sister? I'm not hearing it properly, but I know it's a good organization. So I want to thank also the people who have chosen to be part of organizations that work for the rights of refugees and try and improve their situation, who act in solidarity. And I want to thank you who are asylum seekers and refugees for the honor and privilege of working with you. And also, we will continue to work with you. We will continue to create the spaces where you can tell your stories and also where you can speak about your pain. And our task will be to hear, support, encourage, so that the more we are able to get out that which is in us, which is poison, the more we are free to work together for a world which is kinder, gentler, and more just. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Father Makelapsi. We have sort of come to an end, but maybe if there's any burning comment, I'll take maybe one or two, because I don't want to keep people for long. And I've been instructed that people may remain where you are and food is being served, but maybe if there is one burning, I'll give that opportunity, just briefly. Okay, there's no one. Let's close. In my culture, when the elder has spoken, you know, as a young man, you sort of not allowed to speak after those wise words. So thank you, Father Michael, for your inputs and your wise words and your wisdom. And I hope, and thank you to all who have come. And I hope that this was not in vain, and that it can help us to think critically and maybe develop positive attitude and in contribution to our healing of our societies. So thank you all. And we have some pamphlets from the Institute. I know some of you have received them, so I can give them away. And then if you feel that you have maybe a particular issue that you need, especially in the context of healing, and other programs that we have, you can contact us. So I'm gonna put them right at the back, and then you can have them. Our details are here. So feel free to contact us also in partnership, also for personal healing reasons. So thank you so much for being part of this seminar. So now food is served. I hope afterwards we can do some networking, and then we leave. Thank you so much, and we obviously adhere to the COVID-19 restrictions. Thank you so much.